Hello dear students. Today we are going to discuss about the topic called as triglycerides. Okay, what are triglycerides? That we will see. We know that triglyceride, it is an example of lipids. Okay, triglyceride, it is nothing but it is a lipid. So triacylglycerol or triglycerol or triglycerides, these are different name for triacylglycerol. Okay, and it is an example of, or it is a fatty acid. We can say it is a fatty acid. Storage form of fatty acid in the organism is called as the triacylglycerol. So fatty acid is stored in the form of triacylglycerols. How glucose is stored in the form of glycogen. Okay, in the same manner fatty acids are stored in the form of triacylglycerols or simply fats. Okay, fatty acid is stored in the form of triacylglycerols or we can say fats. Now what are triglycerides? As the name indicates, tri means 3 and 3 molecules of glycerol as well as fatty acids are the triglycerides or triglycerol. So these are triesters of fatty acids and glycerols. They are also called as neutral fat or triglyceride. Different forms are available like mono, diacyl, glycerol. Yeah. Naturally occurring fats and oils are a mixture of triglycerols. So that also you have to keep in mind. This is the structure of a triglycerol. Glycerol, which is shown in the blue color. So glycerol, it is an अल्कोहल डेरिवेटिव. ग्लिसरॉल क्या है? ये एक अल्कोहल है. इट इज एन अल्कोहल डेरिवेटिव ऑफ ग्लिसरल्डिहाइड. ठीक है, सो ग्लिसरॉल इट इज एन अल्कोहल डेरिवेटिव ऑफ ग्लिसरल्डिहाइड. एंड फैटी एसिड वी नो कंपोजिशन ऑफ ट्राइग्लिसरॉल क्या है? कंपोजिशन ऑफ ट्राइग्लिसरॉल इज ग्लिसरॉल एंड फैटी एसिड. Okay, combination of glycerol and fatty acid, it forms the triacylglycerol. In short, you can say that these are the building blocks. Synthesis भी यहीं से start होता है और at last you get the structure of the triacylglycerol. Okay, so glycerol, it is an alcohol derivative of glyceraldehyde and fatty acids क्या है? Fatty acids, these are hydrocarbon tail. We have already seen that fatty acids consist of the hydrogen and carbon in their structure. Okay, so this is the structure of glycerol in the form of, or we can say it is an alcohol derivative. The capacity to store lipid is almost unlimited. Okay, so lipids body में सबसे ज़्यादा store किया जाता है as that of the glucose. How glucose is stored in the form of the glycogen, in the same manner lipids are stored in the form of fats or in the form of the triglycerols. Okay, and mostly these lipids are stored in the body. Why? Because they doesn't require water. No water is required for the storage of the lipids. Okay, so therefore lipids are preferred form of the storage of energy. Okay, lipids are the preferred form for the storage of energy. In an average person, about 80% of the stored energy is in the form of lipids. And we know that fats ये बहुत जल्दी deposit हो जाता है. Okay, and when there is need of energy, then these fats are being broken down and then energy is being used. So in an average person, about 80% of the energy is stored in the form of lipids. Lipids are stored mostly in the form of fats or triglycerides, and a triglyceride consists of 3 fatty acids esterified with a molecule of glycerol. So fatty acids or glycerol molecule, and these are linked together by the ester bond. Okay, hence it is known as the esterified. So this is the structure of triglyceride. R1, R2, R3, it is the fatty acid. Okay, so combination of glycerol and fatty acid forms the triglyceride. Now here, whenever carbohydrate is ingested in a large amount to store the glycogen, it is converted into triacylglycerols and then it is stored in the adipose tissue. Means what? We know glucose is stored in the form of glycogen and further glycogen is converted into triacylglycerol and that is stored in the adipose tissue. Even plants also manufacture this triacylglycerol as a energy rich fuel. Okay, and we can say this triacylglycerols are stored in the fruits, in the nuts and seeds. Okay, so in the fruits, nuts and seeds there is storage of triacylglycerol. Now where this triglycerides are synthesized, they are synthesized in the liver, in the adipose tissue, even they are stored in the adipose tissue as well. Okay, so liver, adipose tissue, intestinal mucosa, mammary glands and muscles, these are the different sites of the synthesis for triglycerides. Okay, so that you have to keep in mind, and it is synthesized in the cytosol. Okay, it works in the cytosol. बेशक यहाँ पर synthesize कर रहे हैं लेकिन they are synthesized in the cytosol. Okay, adipocytes store triglycerides in the form of fat globules. Okay, we know that these are the site of synthesis: liver, adipose tissue, intestinal mucosa, mammary gland and muscles. Okay, but they are synthesized in the cytosol. Okay, adipocytes are the storage form of the triglycerides. As I told that triglycerides are stored in the adipose tissue in the form of fat globules, and most of the space in the adipocytes, they are filled with this triglycerides. Okay, adipocytes can synthesize as well as hydrolyze triglycerides. That is really a wonderful thing. This we can store triglycerides in the adipocytes, plus in the adipocytes we can break these triglycerides, we can hydrolyze this triglycerides. Okay, हम स्टोर भी कर सकते हैं, फॉर्म भी कर सकते हैं, और जो स्टोर किया है, जो फॉर्म किया है, उसको ब्रेक भी कर सकते, उसको तोड़ भी सकते हैं. ओके, सो that we can do in adipocytes. So adipocytes play a very key role among all the organelles. The intracellular site for the synthesis of triglyceride is cytosol. The building blocks of triglyceride synthesis are glycerol and fatty acid. As I told earlier, this act as a precursor, means for the synthesis process. We will see the biosynthesis of triacylglyceride. Okay, in that also you will come to know that glycerol and fatty acid, they act as a precursor for the synthesis of triacylglycerol. Both of these have to be activated before being used for triglyceride synthesis. तो जब हम synthesis देख रहे हैं, suppose we want to synthesize triglycerides, ठीक है, अब हमको triglyceride synthesize करना है. So it is necessary, you must have fatty acid and you must have glycerol. Okay, so that is the need for the synthesis of triacylglycerol or triglycerides. The fatty acids are activated to acyl CoA. Okay, fatty acids ये activate किए जाते हैं to the acyl CoA, and actually this is the start of the synthesis process. ठीक है, ये start है कि हमें precursor चाहिए है fatty acid and glycerol. Okay, अब हमें पता है fatty acid just before. In our last lecture, in our previous lecture, we have seen about the synthesis of fatty acid. That was palmitic acid. Okay, तो fatty acid अब हमें मिल चुका है. We have synthesized the fatty acid in the cytosol. Okay, अब हमारे पास fatty acid है. अब हमें glycerol चाहिए. Okay, that fatty acid is present in the cytosol itself, and our triacylglycerol is also synthesized in the cytosol. ठीक है, fatty acid भी कहाँ है हमारा? cytosol में है. ट्राइसल्गलिसरॉल भी हम कहाँ सिंथेसाइज कर रहे हैं? इन द साइटोसोल. ओके, अब बस वो जो फैटी एसिड प्रेजेंट है साइटोसोल में, वी वांट टू एक्टिवेट दैट. हमें वो क्या करना है? एक्टिवेट करना है, ताकि वो हमारे सिंथेसिस में काम आ सके. ओके, So how you will activate that? You will activate it to the acyl CoA or acetyl CoA. Okay, fatty acids are activated to the acetyl CoA, and this activation is catalyzed by the enzyme called as thiokinase. And when you synthesize or when you catalyze this reaction, there is need of ATP. Okay, so this is activation of fatty acid. This is our fatty acid which is already present in the cytosol. We have synthesized. हमने previous lecture में fatty acid का synthesis देखा. Okay, तो fatty acid कहाँ synthesize होता है? In the cytosol. That fatty acid is converted into the acyl CoA. Any fatty acid you can take, palmitic acid, oleic acid, any fatty acid, that are converted into acetyl CoA or acyl CoA with the help of thiokinase. Okay, and even cofactor is required. Magnesium, ATP is converted into AMP. Lot of energy is required, plus there is addition of COH group. Okay, so fatty acid is converted into the acetyl CoA. Here there is activation of fatty acid. Why we have activated the fatty acid? Just this fatty acid must be participated in our synthesis of triacylglycerol. Okay, so first precursor we have seen, that is fatty acid. Now glycerol. Okay, the second precursor is glycerol, that we will discuss in our next lecture. Thank you.